Hello, BookTube. I just put up a video a little while ago, a sort of response video to Market Book Time with Elvis, uh, called "Do Our Classics Worth It?" And he got inspired. I might have said in there that it was, a response video, but he was inspired basically by another video. And again, I'm not gonna mention that video because this is mine was not a response to that video. It was something else. Um, and that's why I said but it's a sort of response video to his. But anyway, because of that, it made me think of some other things after I recorded it, and there was a comment that was put on that was very interesting. Uh, Somebody mentioned that the reason why people don't read or have they have difficulty with reading older books, classics like Tudor English and everything like that, like that type of thing, or by extension, I suppose, like Chaucer and um, and older stuff. And then says that people like the modern translations of French, because French literature is translated in simple English. And then the person says, and I talk a lot about French literature. I don't know if there was any implication there, but it made me think of something else. It's like, because until I started watching BookTube, I had no idea that people had difficulty reading, say, the first thing that really caught my eye was Oscar Wilde's Picture of Dorian Gray. And I always found that a very simple book to read. And I started seeing last year, it's really just, yeah, it's just over a year ago. Well, I'd seen it before, but it never really made an impact. Uh, a lot of booktubers were saying they found it difficult to read because of the language. And that was a revelation to me. And it's like, and I I they're not lying. I don't think they're lying. So this is something that is real, but it's something that I never came across before. There was nobody that I knew um, that read that had difficulty with this stuff. Even maybe a little bit with Shakespeare, but understanding Shakespeare, like the meaning behind it. But the language stuff, you could read it and sort of understand it. For a good part of it, with a little thought and practice, you can understand this. And the same as Chaucer in Middle English. But again, it comes back to this thing that these people are a small pool of people that I knew that were reading. And then with BookTube, the internet, and for a long time, it becomes a bigger pool. And it's really only in the last few years that I began to sort of look at what people were talking about, what they were reading on the internet, hence BookTube. So it expanded my horizons of people's what people like and what they didn't like and what they have problems with. Um, and then the second part of that comment, I just wanted to finish this one up. That people find it difficult, but I don't know why. I still don't know why, because it is English. And yes, it's not the same structure as it is today, but it is English, and it just takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of practice. And yes, you're not going to pick it up if you've never read anything like that before. And I've even heard people say that they have difficulty reading stuff that was written in the 80s with very younger people. And that just blows my mind. But, again, I don't think they're lying. And it's just I just think that people need to spend a little time and thought and practice to actually experience it. And once you do, it's not difficult. It's a very easy to find the key to reading this stuff. Translation, though, is a very, very different kettle of book scrapings. Very different. If you don't know the language, then it doesn't matter when it was written, you're not going to make any headway with it. Now, then I started thinking about this, about translation. Like, oh, are translations any good? Is it worthwhile to read something in translation? I will clearly say yes, I think it is. But it depends on the translation. And then it comes back to the thoughts of Roald Dahl that they've backed down on, but, you know, they had a sensitivity sort of thing of, you know, changing things for sensitivity. That's nothing new. Let's just look at Les Miserables. This is an English translation from 1862, the same year that it was published in France, in French. Now, it's written in English from of the idiom in English in 1862. Should be, anyway. Like a translation today, the Christine Doniger translation is in the idiom, English idiom of today. But the book has people, and it's not just, it was published in 1862. It's got to do with, you know, 1815 to 1835. So it's a historical thing there as well. But 1862 English is pretty close to 1835. Even 1835 English, pretty close. Now, to me, that's the best way to read it. That's the best way to read a translation, to have a contemporary translation of the time. However, it's fraught with a lot of issues. For instance, this one here that was done in English in 3 volumes by Raxel in 1862. It's not a complete translation. He did not like certain things, and there's a bit of naughty stuff in it occasionally in a lot of, especially French literature, that they didn't want it translated, and it was just cut out. So it was censored. And swear words would either be cut out or sanitized. And if something, and with regards to another translation, which was a pirate translation in the United States in 1862, I think it was again, it was done in for the southern states. It was basically a ripoff of Charles Wilbur's translation of the same year, American translation. But they thought they would do, using today's term, a sensitivity translation for it. And they took out everything that Hugo says against slavery. Because basically the thought would be the readers would not like to read that. Because it would be against their sensibilities to be told that slavery is wrong. You know, just think about that, and, you know, compare it to today. It's the other side of the coin. It's the other side of the coin. So that's why older translations are interesting for those reasons. But as a reading experience, you're going to miss things. And I read modern translations as much as possible, for not because of the ease of language, but because they hopefully are more complete, explanatory notes when things are difficult to translate. And yeah, they don't cut things out. They are complete. They're not sanitized. They are not sensitive. They hopefully are not sensitivity translated. So anyway, that's my sort of extension of why classics matter. But it's not really classics matter. It's like, are translations worth reading? Let's just put it that way. Thank you, BookTube.